My analysis on company training process. IBM subsidiary. Company training process. According to the existing company training process, TNA, training need analysis, should be done through annual staff appraisal, using specific software application. Request for training should be placed in Omega software application. Contact training provider to obtain quotation is PO, procurement officer. Review and approval of all proposals and quotations is responsibility of PO. Currently, there is violation in organizing logistics for trainings. According to the current process, the responsibility is assigned to supervisor, manager, and team lead. But often, the responsibilities are wrongly moved to PO or HR. Currently, there is violation in attending training and updating record, because there are no records for audit trial. Staff attends training not always receives certificate of attendance and completion of training, and the personnel files are not updated. Training feedback and evaluation are not recorded. Success in training is not evaluated through job evaluation and result of work, or through performance management system, or training feedback evaluation form. The success in training is not recorded. Cmmi Level 3 training process. According to Cmmi L3 training process, training needs are determined by training specialist and not by supervisor, manager, team lead, HR, and GM. The above activities should be done by specially assigned training specialist and not by various stakeholders. Managers and team leads need to participate in training needs analysis, ensure attendance, and list of people, and evaluate the result on the job. DM/GM has to prepare annual budget for company training, determine training needs at organization level and assess training effectiveness. Training's KPIs are not described in the Cmmi L3 process. According to Cmmi L3, there should be a separate training department and the personnel of this department should be trained on OT process. Adherence to the training procedure should be monitored by the QA member on an ongoing basis and by the auditor. Organizational training process must be handled by training specialist. Training procedures are handled by training specialist, but HR Chief Operation Officer coordinator completes training needs, which are identified through annual appraisal. Business requirements for new training/technology should be sent to the training specialist. Senior management is responsible for establishing strategic training needs, identifying training needs, and submitting training requests. Team leads/staff are responsible for identifying project-specific trainings and submit training requests. Training specialist is responsible for creating training team activity plan, training matrix, complete and consolidate all training requests on organizational level. Training specialist creates training development need and planning register, prepares training calendar, organizational training plan, tracks and monitors organizational training plan. Training specialist arranges resources for internal training programs, update training development need and planning register, identify training delivery method, identify internal trainers, prepare training material, course, material, evaluate and update training material, arrange training room stationery and other peripheral requirements and provide training matrix, internal trainers list. In the evaluated company, the conduct training process is violated. Induction training is not always carried out and completed within the employee's first month of employment. Prior details of the course for nomination of delegate names are not always provided. Candidate attendance sheet is not always circulated, and each participant is not always signs the sheet on daily basis. Reason for non-attendance is not always noted by the trainer. The record is not maintained by the training specialist. There is no training department to maintain course materials for internal programs and to copy the course materials to the library. At the end of training, course attendees are not completing the training feedback from and the form is not collected by the trainer and returned to training specialist for processing and analysis. Training specialist is not processing and analyzing the feedback. Feedback is not provided to the managers, trainers, and HR. Performance of external trainer is not monitored or there is no record of such monitoring. Training effectiveness is not measured. Test, based on the training received, is not conducted. Training effectiveness review is not conducted. Course completion debriefing is not conducted. Monthly training effectiveness report is not generated. HR recommendations for CMMI-L3 process adaptation to the company training process. Since the company doesn't have training specialist and training department, distribute the responsibility of training specialist and training department among managers, team leads, admin, and HR as follows. Manager/team lead. Determine team training needs in accordance with systematic approach to training. Identify training requirements and communicate it to HR. Define team training calendar and detailed schedule and communicate to HR. Analyze training needs. Arrange resources for internal training program. Plan external training program. Identify training delivery method. Define training objectives and KPIs prior to the training. Communicate to HR what will be the indicators that will enable to process performance measurement. Communicate to HR how the measurement will be done and what will be the forms/dashboards. Ensure that training standards are established and meet minimum standards. Evaluate and update training materials. Ensure adequate employees are assigned to training activities. Ensure that the team members are available for training. Establish team training record and communicate it to HR. Assess training effectiveness. Evaluate the results of the training. Analyze training. Measure training effectiveness through 1. Tests, 2. Training effectiveness review, 3. Course completion debriefings. Generate training report to HR. Participate in training budget preparation. Collect feedback forms, course materials, attendance sheet. Analyze training and provide feedback to HR. Monitor performance of external training. HR manager. Consolidate all training requests on organizational level and maintain the record. Create organizational training calendar. Create organizational training plan. Track and monitor organizational training plan. Establish training records. Prepare annual budget for organization trainings. Determine training needs at the organization level. Assess training effectiveness analysis. Monitor the procedure on an ongoing basis. Audit internal quality system. The scope of the audit shall be defined by senior management. Monitor and track as specified. Analyze training feedback. Conduct other analysis. Admin and procurement. Provide training place and materials, classroom, computers, etc. Assess and evaluate vendors. Maintain vendors' assessment for audit trial. Process purchase requests, obtain approvals. Arrange training room stationery and other peripheral requirements. Arrange logistics. HR recommendations for company training process. Each manager must review and get familiar with CMMI-L3 training process. Each training must have test/exam on completion of the training. Managers should review and analyze the results, and communicate it to HR. For each training attendance form, training evaluation form, and KPI form must be used by the respective manager, team lead. KPIs must be developed by managers. All training forms must be developed by HR. HR must maintain records of training attendance, training evaluation, and training effectiveness evaluation.